Well, good afternoon. Welcome to BTB003, Windows Media. I hope you guys had a good time last night. How many people attended the party? Was it fun? Good. All right. I missed it. I was working on something. But hopefully you had a drink for yourself and several other people. My name's Eric Schmidt. I'm the group product manager and the professional media group at Microsoft. This is a team inside of the Windows team, and we focus on advanced and professional media scenarios for imaging, for audio and music, and for video and film. The point of this session today, they asked me, hey, can you come down and talk about Windows Media? And I used to work on the developer division side, and I worked on web services and things, and it's like, hey, can you come and talk about .NET? I'm like, well, what specifically do you want to talk about? So it's the same challenge here. Can you come down and talk about Windows Media? And whenever I thought about the session, I was like, well, there's a bunch of different high-level topics that we can talk about, and I just want to level set with everyone, specifically with this audience, about where we're at momentum-wise, what we're investing in. And then I'm going to dive deep into a couple scenarios that I think are very important from a business model perspective, stuff that's emerging, new content models, new business models that from a content owner or from a developer perspective are very important. So really at the end of this talk, I want to make sure that you understand what our strategy is with Windows Media and you understand the particular technology pieces that we're investing in. So specifically, I'm going to kind of walk through two different themes inside of this talk. First, I'm going to walk through our Windows Media platform. What investments have we made to date? Where are we at with standardization, with specific codecs, et cetera? What does our DRM strategy look like? And then I'm going to take another pass through and talk about new business models that the Windows Media platform is powering. And I'm going to focus on content flow and what we're doing with device interoperability. At a high level, this talk is really all about highlighting content and experiences. This is something that we've been working on for about the past 5 years. You know, our model from a Microsoft perspective has always been one about deep and rich partner development. So whenever it comes to digital media, same model's been applied. Going out and working with different content providers, both on the audio and video side, providing them the platforms so they can go and deliver new user scenarios, whether it's subscription content, download content, streaming content, video on demand, et cetera. And then in the middle, this is really the ecosystem of all the device factors that we're enabling, everything from wireless devices to portable media to Xbox integration, car stereo integration, connected televisions, and of course the PC, one of our core assets to enable consumer experiences. Taking that one step further, the strategy is all about getting content to flow inside of the house and beyond. So simple things like being able to stream content from your PC, your media center, over to another device, being able to stream music from one device to another, like in a Roku or SoundBridge scenario, or maybe interacting with a bunch of different portable devices that you want to be able to offload content to, both audio and video, and maybe take that to your car. So at the end of the day, it's one content type, but it's flowing a bunch of different places. And from a content provider and also from a development aspect, you have a bunch of surface area, a bunch of times that you can hit a consumer with advertising, with marketing, or personalize that experience to fit your business needs. The four things I want to drill down on, though, as far as a strategy perspective, I want to give you an update on where we are with Windows Media Player. I know Joe this morning walked through some demos. I'm going to take you one step further and talk about some specific features in Windows Media Player 11 that are very important. I want to give you an update on where we're at with standardization, specifically with our video codec around VC1 as it relates to streaming technology and also the next generation of high-definition video. I'll walk through what we're doing around choice and mobility, so taking content beyond the existing portable media devices and pushing it into, say, for example, the wireless space and the Wi-Fi space. And then last is highlight some new kind of innovative creation and community services that are being developed on top of Windows Media technologies. Today, Windows Media Player 10, we have over 300 million installs of Media Player 10. That's a lot of customers. That's probably around 2/3 of the Windows install base today. So we have access to over 300 million customers. That's a pipe that developers and content providers can tap into. And I'm going to talk about some of the very successful models that people have implemented to tap into that reach of Windows Media Player 10 today. As we start looking at the numbers, though, we have 300 million install base, and we know on average around 70 million consumers are using Windows Media Player per month. So out of those 300 million, around 70 million of them are active at any given time. And they're spending around 30 minutes per month on average inside of Windows Media Player. If you compare that to, say, our heavy competition with the iPod and iTunes consumers are spending around 100 minutes per month. So there's a skew between the amount of time, the stickiness that Windows Media Player consumers are experiencing versus what they're investing on the Apple and iPod side. And whenever we took a step back and looked at why, it all came down to design, ease of use, integration with services that are inside of the player. It was just way too difficult for a lot of consumers to make a long-term commitment to Windows Media Player. And we acknowledge that and say, okay, we're going to the drawing board with Vista. We're going to build a new version of the Media Player. What should we do? And these are the three core pillars. Whenever I get into the demo, you're going to see this. So the first piece was all about designing something that was great for people who love music. It wasn't simply good enough that you could store your music and organize it. We wanted to store it and organize it in a way that is natural for people that really love music, have massive CD libraries, music libraries on their PC. The second piece is we wanted to enable seamless store integration. We have around 180 stores today, and they all integrate with Windows Media Player one way or another. Some work great, some work okay. We've basically left this model up to our partners in order to figure out the best way to integrate with Windows Media Player. In 11, we've changed the playing field. We provide them a dedicated surface area that they can work inside of, and then there are very specific things that they need to leverage on top of Windows Media Player, like storage, search, device interaction, et cetera. So we made it very seamless for them to plug in order to have a consistent user experience across multiple stores and across multiple activities inside of the player. And the last piece is around this kind of your entertainment everywhere. So it's just not about music, it's about pictures, it's about video, et cetera. And it's not just about one device. I could take it to my portable media device, I could take it to my cell phone, I could take it to my laptop, I could stream it to the Xbox, et cetera. So basically open up an environment where you can take your content wherever you want to. And from a content owner perspective or from a developer's perspective, there's a bunch of business opportunity there because every time that content moves, you can build a new user experience or new application to add value. So what I want to do is flip over. And I know you guys have already seen this demo. How many people were in Joe's demo this morning? Okay, got it. So the first thing I want to highlight is kind of the simplicity of the UI and the navigation on the left side. So the tree is one level deep. You can no longer drill down into multiple genres, et cetera. Whenever you click on genre, it's now all displayed on the right-hand side. I have an album view, I have a song view, and if I want to search, I'll search for an album or a song, say, let's see what I know is in here. I'm going to go to Song View and search on, remember an old Beavis and Butthead from the Beavis and Butthead soundtrack. So I was looking for the song Pimp. Let me stop that. So right now, I'm searching over around 10,000 tracks, and you can see how fast I was able to find that stuff. How many Beavis and Butthead lovers are out there? So we're not shipping the Beavis and Butthead soundtrack with Vista, though. You're still going to have to go buy this somewhere if you don't already own it. I apologize. But right now, this demo, I have around 10,000 tracks. Our testing limits, whenever we ship Media Player 11, the threshold for performance, that same performance, will be 7 million tracks. So we're really targeting much larger music volumes, things like subscription services, or aggregation of multiple different libraries. So whenever I'm looking at, say, if I'm inside of Urge or Music Match and I'm inside of Media Player 11, not only am I looking at my library, I'm also looking at the library that's integrated from the service. The other piece, and I know you guys saw this morning, I'm going to go over to the Sync tab. And up pops my Creative Zen that I have attached. And we've done some things with our Plays for Sure program as far as device interaction to do things like visual representation of the device. So if you have multiple devices attached, you know which device you're working on. We have the gas gauge that's available. So if I'm looking in album view and I start dragging over a bunch of content, it's going to take me a while to build this up. That gas gauge is going to start showing what's going on with the space that's left on the device. If I go over to library, it's just not about music. I can go over and look at videos. Here's the video that's available for me. And if I want to sync, I can just go ahead and drag and drop. One of the key features of Media Player 11, especially with video content, we also enabled, we have existing transcoding capability, but we're also providing transcription of protected content. So this is, an environment, say, maybe you get into the distribution of films or longer feature length, feature length content that needs to be protected by the mandate by the copyright owner. In Media Player 11, we basically give the ability to transcode that down to fit to the device. So the device will say, this is the form factor that I need. However, the content's protected, so we'll transcode it and then re-protect the content with the existing licenses that came down from the service. So we wanted to make this as easy as possible for the user to make sure that they can get their content and move it wherever they want, but still maintain the content protection scheme. So that's a really neat feature. All the extensibility aspects remain, so you can skin this, you can embed it inside of your web applications, you can extend it inside of a rich, say a WinForms application or WPF application in the future. So all the extensibility aspects remain the same. Oops. The other piece that I wanted to show you, our feature music service that we're shipping with Media Player 11 is Urge. And Urge is an MTV-driven product, but there's a couple of things that I want to point out. This is the latest screenshot that's available. The first piece is that you'll notice that the left nav and the navigation below the service is the exact same user experience that you saw before in the demo. So from an MTV's perspective, they have the real estate, all the way from here over to control their user experience, and their user experience is all about programming content. And they sit on top of the player for search, for storage, for synchronization, et cetera. So we let them do what they want to go do. They want to do awesome content programming and make sure they have a sticky experience with consumers. But at the same time, they're sitting on top of the player to make sure that they know confidently that the consumer is going to have a good experience with the player, with sync, et cetera. So that's Media Player 11. Set that off to the side because I'm going to come back to it a little bit whenever I get into Vista. The next piece I want to talk about is what we're doing on the standard side, specifically with our video codec. For the past 2 years or so, we've been working with SMPTE to standardize Windows Media Video, Windows Media Video 9. We submitted to SMPTE a week and a half ago or so. It has reached final standard status, and it's available up on their site. You can download their open source decoder and rock on if you want to continue to do quality comparisons between this and H.264 or existing MPEG-2 content. Windows Media Video 9 that's already shipping is Microsoft's implementation of VC1. So the number of installs of Windows Media Player 10, Windows Media Video 9 is sitting out on all 300 million of those installs. So this codec is there. It's available for you to take advantage of. There is, in certain cases, an encode and decode required because whenever we submitted Windows Media Video to SMPTE, there was a couple things in the bit stream that had to get changed. Fortunately, whenever you open up Windows Media Player and it has a codec or a file format that it can't decode, it automatically goes up the Windows Update and says, hey, I'm looking for this codec with this 4C header. Do you have the appropriate codec available? And in this case, we'll automatically download it to the player. If you have a sandbox environment, say a server, et cetera, that doesn't have access to the internet, you can download this cab file and update your machines accordingly. The other piece to point out is from an encoding perspective, we released a 64-bit version of our Windows Media Coder 9 series. This is something that we've been shipping for a couple years. We ported it over to 64-bit, saw a bunch of performance increases with the 64-bit port, and that version of the 64-bit version has the latest VC1 compliant encode. Now, some background on VC1. A lot of people say, hey, why would you guys go off and, and build another codec? There's already, great, or in some cases, decent video codecs on the marketplace today. There's a couple reasons why we did this. One, we knew that HD content was going to become more and more increasingly demanded from a consumer aspect, and we wanted to make sure we had a great playback experience on the PC, media center, et cetera. And part of that is, we really focused on preserving film grain for high-quality cinema-style content, both inside of the home and even in a digital cinema environment. So if you sit down with a properly encoded stream and comparing this between 264 and VC1, you're going to see a lot more of the film grain and that natural aspects of how the content was originally captured. From a compression perspective, we're anywhere between 2 to 4 times tighter or more efficient than MPEG-2. So if you're looking to push this across the web in a broadband scenario, we've greatly improved the efficiency from a compression perspective. And on a decode side, we're around 2 to 3 times faster on the decode side to 264 today on the PC side. So if you're looking at running this on a laptop that may be constrained by battery life, or maybe just app performance, you have other things going on, we've increased efficiency there as well. The other piece to kind of step back, especially if you're a developer or you're in the content creation space, we have massive momentum across everything from authoring to device playback. So today, if you have an investment in Avid tools, Sony, Adobe tools, they all have export to Windows Media Video or VC1. And we're working with them to have native integration with these tools for native editing of VC1 content as well. And taking this one step further, if I can export or encode, this stuff is fairly resource intensive, so we worked with partners like Inlet and Terrari to provide acceleration hardware that you can plug into your PC that integrates with your software tools to get accelerated encoding. And then working with chipset manufacturers to make sure that we have hardware or silicon-based decode for resource-constrained devices like this, ZenVision or other small portable media players. So at the end of the day, you know that whenever that content hits the device, it's going to be able to play back and play back reliably. So what I'm going to do here is show you, we have an existing Windows Media Video 9 encoder. How many people have used this? Okay. So I'm probably going to get fired for this, but since I own the product, we've been working on a next generation encoder. I consistently get feedback from people like, hey, why doesn't your existing encoder do this, or I wish it would do that? And all these features keep piling up. Well, with the release of VC1, we're now synchronized product release-wise to release the next generation of encoder. We're going to be releasing this in beta format at NEB at the end of April, but I figured you guys are here, I'm here, might as well give you a quick sneak peek of what's going on. So go over to laptop. Oops. Oh, wrong one. That's not the one you want. You're like, what are you doing? booting up here, hopefully. So a couple of things to point out, and I'm not going to walk through all the features because that's not the intent of this. The intent of me showing you this is to let you know that we're very close to shipping something, and we're listening to your asks about new features. The key focus for this product is to really focus on offline and post-production scenarios. So Windows Media 9 series, still the recommendation to go for live streaming and live broadcast. We think it's a great solution, especially with augmenting it with partners like the ones that I showed you. But on the offline and post-production scenarios, Windows Media 9 series doesn't do a very good job, especially on the QA side. And those are, that's one of the use cases that we're focused on here, is to make sure that you can get really, really high quality encoded content out the door. So I'm going to go ahead and add an audio track. I'm going to go over to my timeline, add a source, and let's find some data, media, video, samples. There's the Speedway. Drag this into my timeline. Come on. Oh, there you go. Cool. So one of the things that people have asked for is they wanted frame-by-frame editing to be able to see what's going on as they're walking through the process. So here I'm just going to kind of stream through, and I can sit here and go frame by frame and look at exactly what's going to happen during this encode and decode process. So here's a classic example. I'm going from one scene to another. During the encode process, maybe I want to focus on making sure that Energizer logo looks really good. We've also, detached this as well. So if you have a reference monitor, I'm on single monitor here, I can drag over to my reference monitor to see how things look. I think if there's anything else I want to show you. Oh, we've also had some magnification pieces as well for folks, if I want to be able to zoom around and look at specific aspects. So this is just one piece of the product, but the takeaway here is that, we're trying to greatly simplify the encoding and post-production process. And then whenever you get this in your hands, you're going to see we're really focused on optimizing VC1 from a codec perspective to make sure that all the switches and choices that you were making parameter-wise are very intuitive, and that you're going to get a high-quality product. Again, that'll be out, NAB. How many people are going to NAB? Probably just a couple. All right, stop by the booth. So we have Media Player. We talked about VC1 a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is switch over to kind of a completely different scenario, riding on the success of the Windows Media Player 10 install base today. So I talked about those 300 installs out there. And there's a little company, I met these guys at MIDM this year, which is the largest music exchange conference on the planet. Everyone comes to Con every year to exchange their content. And what DigiEmpro did is they looked and said, you know what? This whole ringtones marketplace is starting to explode. There's going to be 1 billion handsets, wireless handsets in the marketplace by 2007. Online music purchases are continuing to trick up. What can we do, to add value to the space? Is there any place that we can go in and start, creating a new user experience in order to start, making some cash? And what they did is, I'm going to switch back over to my laptop, is they went out to, and they're still in the prototyping stage, they went out and they built, the first thing that did is they built a Windows Media plugin to start controlling user experience. And then they went to content providers and said, hey, we want to get into the ringtone business, but we want to empower our customers to create their own ringtones, but with your content. So here's the demo. I'm going to go find the song, media. Oops. Again, this is still in prototyping phase, so bear with me on this one. You guys can hear this? Great. What this is a song from Sasha, DJ and producer in Europe. And they have about several high-profile customers right now. They're working with Moby, working with Sasha, and they're working with some major labels. They have a file format right now, a proprietary file format that contains a bunch of audio stems of the original source material. So they built this Windows Media plugin to process all the audio, but they're using their proprietary codec. And what you can do is go through and pick out certain parts of the song. So here I'm at the kind of part 4. They outline, here's the intro parts and then the outro. Maybe there's a bridge. And I'm going to remix part of the song on the fly. So I'm going to change this, and I want kind of more of the drums feel. I really don't like vocals, so I'm going to take those out. And I'm a sucker for the congas. I love congas. And this is a little bit too pumpy. So I'm going to go back and play this again. Come up with my own remix of this thing. Kind of like this. I want to put it on my cell phone. I also want to make some money. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say save as ringtone. And it's going to take me out to their community site. Go in, E. Schmidt. And at this point, it's going to upload, oops, wrong username. Into the mix, let's say my mix at mix. Dope, cut. And don't know. Upload. It's going to take my version that I created inside of Windows Media Player, upload it to the community, and I now have access to my version plus all the other versions that are up here. And as part of the commodity model now, other people that like my stuff can buy my ringtone and push it to their phone, so the artist gets paid, but also your Spins is making, you know, a little bit of money as well for providing this type of environment. And whenever we're working with these guys, I was like, hey, imagine what this is going to look like with WPF, and if you have much more real-time, interactive community environment. Something like this could really take off. But at the end of the day, they needed a platform to expose this and a model for them to work with on the PC, and that was all driven by Windows Media Player. You guys think that's cool? Is that yes? Yeah. I'm still working on my perfect mix for my phone, though, so I'm not a big fan of Sasha. I'm waiting for their Moby tracks and some other things to come in. So that's DigiM Pro. Those guys are off doing some cool work. The next thing I want to do is drill into where we're at Windows Media DRM-wise. It's a hot topic. I often talk to people all the time, either from a political aspect, a legislative aspect, a business model aspect about Windows Media DRM or DRM in general. And this slide is really geared to just kind of, making sure that at a high level you know exactly where we're at from a technology-wise and where we're headed. So Windows Media DRM really consists of two things. It consists of a format SDK that you can download and develop against, and a rights management server that you can use to track metadata and also serve up licenses for content. So between those two pieces of technology, you can license this from Microsoft and develop a content protection scheme for audio and video content today. The other way that you can do this is that, from a partner perspective, we partner with a bunch of different external entities to deliver different types of solutions. The platform who I just showed you, they're powering Verizon and Stars and some other services from a content protection scheme. Or maybe someone like BuyDRM, these guys would probably be a great example to go help the DigiPro guys out because their business model and their cost structure blends better with a smaller entity like DigiM Pro. But at the end of the day, you have choices whether to build this yourself or to go to a service provider and use them to help you out. And then at the core of all this is our PlayAssure certification program for devices to make sure that those content protection schemes, which are going to vary. Some of them may be subscription content. Some of them may be preload or expiration-driven content. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that there's a consistent user experiences across all the different devices out there. And taking that one step further, we also have Windows Media DRM for network devices. So things like I can stream protected content or premium content from my Windows Media Server wirelessly over to my HD screen in my living room. And we can do that in a protected environment in order to make sure that we're maintaining the original intent of the copyright owner from a content protection perspective. But at the end of the day, from a consumer's aspect, we wanted to make sure that this is seamless. So these are all the areas that we've invested in. The key features, these are things that I like to highlight because I think sometimes people get lost about, okay, is it just around protecting content, or is it around getting content to flow and also building some additional kind of unique aspects to my application? So metering is the first one I talk to people about. Just because I'm pushing content someplace doesn't mean, and it's protected, doesn't mean that I still don't have some type of value information that I can grab from it, especially whenever a user's playing it back. So how many times have they played it? Did they put cue markers in the song? How many times has this stuff been transferred? So you can start to get an idea, if you choose to do so, about where your content is really flowing and how it's being used. The other piece I like to point out on this slide is that Windows Media DRM has the ability to both import and export DRM technology from non-Windows Media DRM sources. So say, for example, we've worked with the wireless community, specifically with Nokia, to get OMA import from OMA protected content into Windows Media DRM so we can get content flowing from wireless devices over to the PC and vice versa. Or in the example of Windows Media Center, where you have digital cable content coming over protected by Ochre, we can take that content and get it transcripted into Windows Media DRM, so then we can get it to flow around to other places like the Xbox and the devices that I showed you. So, it's a very open platform from an import and export perspective. So if you're out there and thinking about, well, I may invest in this, but am I going to be locked in? Not necessarily the case, because we have extensibility mechanisms to transcode it or transcript in and out. So the next piece is I want to dive into kind of these business models that we've been able to enable. I think the DigiPro guys, they're a good example of off doing some community work, but I want to take a step up and talk about some bigger industries that we have investments in that I think from a content provider perspective and also a developer, which I keep saying over and over again, there's a lot of opportunity in these areas. So the first one is around wireless, and I'm using Verizon as an example because this is the last project that I worked on. So our Windows Media Audio, Windows Media Video VC1, and Windows Media DRM stack, we have been working with the wireless industry in particular, getting those technologies ported over to non-Windows Media operating systems. So getting them ported over to Linux-based operating systems, working with Nokia's proprietary operating system, to get Windows Media Audio, in particular Windows Media DRM, content to flow to those devices. So it's just not about Windows Mobile, so all the Windows Mobile 5.0 devices out there that have Windows Media Player, that's great, but we also have another around 800 million devices in the marketplace that we could potentially tap into to enable content flow. And that's what we did with Verizon Wireless. So we ported over Windows Media Audio, Windows Media DRM, and we also implemented MTP, which is the protocol to get content back and forth between the PC and devices, and got that embedded into a couple other handsets that I'm going to show you in a second. The other thing that we did with them is over-the-air license acquisition. So I'm walking around with my phone and I want to buy some music, and that content is protected. Well, I need to be able to make sure that I can protect the content as I'm downloading it to the phone. So we worked with Core Media a smaller company really focused on the space, providing services into the content space for content protection. We were able to implement over-the-air license acquisition. And the last piece is we also optimized Windows Media Audio Professional for mobile. So we took our higher-end codec and we optimized it for mobile environments for smaller form factors. So we're saving on bandwidth, but it still sounds great on the device. Instead of just basically cutting the whole spectrum down, we focus on parts of the spectrum like low end that you're not going to be able to really get the mobile device to really kick. And we focused on the mid and high end for clarity aspect. So I'm going to switch over to our little Elmo here. And this is actually a Brew-based phone. This is around $70 or so. And I'm going to go in. And I'm going to go into their service. And the things I like to point out is that, from a usability and also a consumer connection aspect, Verizon has a particular look and feel. They have a way that they like to build their UIs, et cetera. So, that's the business model that they're in. We're in the business model of providing a platform in order to enable it. So, let me go back here. Go into the service, my music. Go in. Come on. All right. So for the sake of demo time, one of the things that they do, they're going out to content providers and say, hey, would you like to have your artist featured inside of our phones? Because, this is the X number of phones that we have in the marketplace today. Go ahead, put them as a featured billboard in order to do direct purchase. So I'm going to go ahead and click. I'm not a big fan of Juvenile, but since he's the one that's up here, I'll go ahead and do it. From a community aspect, I can go ahead and say, go ahead and set an artist alert. So this feature was actually developed by another company, and they're responsible for providing the infrastructure to track all of new artist postings and routing that information to Verizon's customers. So I'm going to say, yeah, I want to be alerted anytime a new Juvenile track comes in. Then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go ahead and buy this. Verizon's model, it costs $1.99 to buy this song. You actually get 2 for 1. So I'm going to get one downloaded to the phone, and I'll also get one downloaded to the PC that's encoded at a much higher bit rate. So you get the experience on your PC. You also get your experience on the phone. And you can also choose where you want to put this content. So you're not really limited by the amount of music that you can carry. You're only limited by the storage that's on the phone. So I have a 256 meg flash card in here. I'm going to hit OK, and then now it's going to download it. And you'll see, it's actually pretty fast from a networking perspective. One, because we've optimized the codec, so there's less bits coming over. And then here's the acquiring license. So it's going back out to the service and saying, OK, I got this content. Here's the person. I want to acquire the license in order to enable playback. And the power management features on this phone are really kicking in. Come on. There you go. So it says one song has been saved in memory. You download this song. You may download the song to your PC at no additional charge. Great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my library. Tune the tones, look at my music. And here's all the stuff that I've downloaded before. So I'm going to play some of this. Here's what I just downloaded, actually, so you can hear it.
Are you feeling broke, lonely, or like
turn it up, please?
in need of a reality check? Well, here comes Enya, As you begin the use of Enya, a side effect may be, but is not limited to, a boost in energy, the urge to bounce, euphoria, or a sudden desire to go bird hunting. Take doses of Enya as necessary. Unauthorized duplication, copy, or distribution of this product will result in a severe
The interesting piece about this is that Verizon's not the, we're not limiting this just to one carrier, et cetera. We're actively working with, actually the majority of carriers are coming to us and saying, hey, we need this infrastructure in order to take these solutions to market. What can you provide? So we work with them to port over Windows Media Audio, Windows Media DRM, and MTP to the device. So we're working with a whole series of handset manufacturers plus carriers. And the opportunity from a business model perspective is that these guys are in the wireless industry. They're not in the content industry. So they don't have the expertise on UI design and targeted marketing for digital media and entertainment. Also things like community development to make their user experience more sticky and more focused on the service that they're providing. So it's always interesting whenever we go and talk to them. They're like, so are you in the communications business or are you in the music business? And they're like, well, we're in the music business in order to provide more value to their customers. And then it's at that point of how interesting are they going to make this service? And who knows what's going to happen? How many services are going to be out there at the end of the day? That'll be a good discussion to have in 3 or 4 years. Next piece I want to talk about is, focus on the wireless side and what we're doing there. The next piece I want to come back to is focus on kind of our core strategy that we started driving 3 years ago, which was enabling scalable streaming scenarios. How many people watched March Madness this past week? Okay. So Thursday, Friday was a record-setting day from a streaming perspective. So CBS Sports, which is powered by Akamai, one of our streaming and CDN partners, served up 400,000 concurrent streams of live March Madness games. And they were able to do this for a couple of reasons. One, they were able to tap into the 300 million Windows Media Player 10 sitting on people's desktops. And they were also able to do it because of the efficiency of the Windows Media Video Codec. And what they did is they went out and said, okay, we want to get access to this content. Great, we get a content deal done. And then built a very simple UI to entice users to come in. And the way that they did this is that they did it for free. So, free content, that's kind of an unheard of thing in the content space. And the way that they were able to do it is deliver a product, a UI that provided a great user experience around basketball, but still skin it with enough advertising to make this a fruitful business venture. So here's kind of you can see this weekend if you're traveling or if you want to watch these games online. You come up and you get placed into a queue, and they're looking at available bandwidth, and then they will send you into a queue. I had to wait about 30 seconds to a minute until I got onto a streaming server that was available. You can kind of see at the time I was around 21 or so currently in line. Or you could make a little bit more investment monetary-wise and become VIP status, but I was okay. So once I got launched in, then here's the player. Again, from a scalability aspect, they hit 400,000 concurrent on Thursday, and they were at 450,000 concurrent live streams on Friday. And up on the right-hand side, then they start doing their targeted advertising. So every time you come back in, and also dependent upon your profile, they're throwing ads at you. And I looked at this, and I'm like, wow, amazing application. It's very simple. But again, imagine if this was WPF enabled, and you could, say, click into the bracket that was associated with your user account and start IMing with your buddies and say, hey, are you watching this game right now? This is what's going on. Exchange information. So the investments that we made on the streaming side are really starting to pay off as far as getting content delivered to the desktop or to these mobile environments. And the next step is to create much more richer, immersive user environments. My favorite piece that they actually did add some additional value down here, they have this thing called the boss button. And if you click on it, it does this. It changes their app into an Excel spreadsheet, so you can hide that you're watching the games and not doing your work at work. So, yeah. By the way, I'm a Huskies fan, so hopefully they can beat UConn probably not going to happen, but I'll be watching the game. Next piece I'm going to talk about from a business model perspective is HD-DVD, or next generation optical formats for high definition content. So Microsoft is a strong backer of the HD-DVD standard. That's for a couple reasons. One of the core reasons is the interactivity model that we worked with Disney to develop as a standard, and then is now ultimately integrated into HD-DVD as a standard. I'm going to talk about what that does in a second, but there's some other important things that you need to know from an application development aspect or from a design aspect about HD-DVD. So in every HD-DVD player that ships, consumer electronics device-wise, and also obviously on the Windows PC, will have networking capabilities. So I can, in live real-time, access web services and other content outside of that device if it's plugged into a network. Second piece is secondary video. We now have the ability to live show two video streams, two HD video streams in real time. So this is nice to develop some interactive content or to get two different views maybe at a particular scene. And the last piece is persistent storage. So if I have access to services outside of the device and I have an interactivity model, we also have persistent storage to save things like preferences or bookmarks or personalization information. The next time you plug that disk in, that information's there. So specifically on the interactivity side, IHD is a very simple, lightweight authoring model. It really doesn't require programmers. It's ECMAScript and XML based. So yet another interactivity or another scripting language for UI. But the scripting language is specifically for the IHD capabilities, which are then specifically tied to the HD-DVD player. So we subsetted of all this and said, here's all the things you could possibly do interactivity-wise with an HD-DVD, and develop the IHD syntax around it. I'm going to switch over to a laptop here. What I want to do is fire up this is a little app. It's a managed code application. It's basically an HD-DVD image simulator. And I'm going to open up a couple test disks that have some interactivity model built into them. Oops. I actually want to do this over here. Sorry. Okay. So here's some aspect of interactivity. So I can do picture-in-picture now, and then these are actually real, two live streams. I can do drawing on the screen in different places. I can inlay controls. I can turn audio off and on. And this is all done with just a very simple XML template that basically synchronizes the UI to the frames that are being delivered from a video perspective. So next thing I want to do, I'll show you see if I have it over here. Yeah, this is kind of cool. Okay. So here's some trivia that I created for you specifically for this. So I'm not a very good developer, but I have some sample video going, and then up pops at a particular screen and says, are you enjoying MIX? ABC, the answer is B, yes, Vegas rocks, WPFS is dope. Now, started thinking about this, you could do things like, well, maybe in a particular scene you saw a person with a shirt, and I could go ahead and click on that shirt and get some real-time information about where that shirt came from, do some persistence, do a bookmark in it. Maybe you're a car dealership selling Maseratis and Ferrari, and you want to deliver a bunch of high-end content to your customers so they can sit down and experience what it feels and looks like to sit inside of the latest Ferrari or Mercedes-Benz, et cetera. All that interactivity, those capabilities are now built into HDVD. So there's a bunch of opportunities, especially for the design community, to go after and say, film houses, people with premium content, let me help you tell a better story. Let me help you glean more value out of the content that you already have. The next piece of this talk, we talked about the importance of Windows Media Player from a consumer aspect. I talk about some of the business models that we're investing in from the mobile perspective and IHD. The last piece I want to talk about is, what does Vista look like from a multimedia aspect? So we can have all this content flowing, and I can have devices out there, and you can have content flowing into the PC, but how is this thing going to look and behave from a consumption aspect? And the key thing that we've done inside of Vista is we've totally re-architected both the audio and video processing infrastructure. And we have a new API called Windows Media Foundation. And it's really focused around doing three things. The first of which is content protection. So if I'm looking at premium content, say HDVD or Windows Media DRM protected content, we want to make sure that we have rock solid infrastructure to make sure that content's not leaking, stuff's not getting hijacked, and that ultimately DRM, for the value that it is providing, it's providing the right value back to copyright owners. Right? Stuff starts to get, if we start to have leaks and breaks, DRM isn't very effective, then the investments that we made, wouldn't make sense if we didn't have a very, very robust content protection system. So that's the first piece, and we wanted to make sure that that was seamless. So whether it's a piece of physical media or if it's something that you downloaded, that it's a very seamless end-user experience all the way up through Windows Media Player. The next piece is around kind of user experience as it relates to audio and video processing. How many times have you been, maybe watching some video and it just dies because you start downloading some other content to your machine and your disk is getting wiped? Has this happened to you before? Or maybe you're recording some content, maybe you're doing a podcast and you get a toast message from Outlook and you get this big ding, and then you get the ding that's now recorded inside of your podcast. There's all different types of things from a routing and usability perspective that we invested in to make sure that the stuff is glitch-free as much as possible, and then you can route audio and video to the appropriate places. And the last piece is around the extensibility aspect. I talked about this with Windows Media DRM. If you have additional codecs or if you have additional content protection schemes or you want to add filters to our processing pipeline, Media Foundation is the place to plug in. So our investments around Windows Media Audio, Windows Media Video, if you have MPEG codecs or other content protection schemes, Media Foundation is the extensibility mechanism to get those formats into Vista. So specifically, these are the things I like to highlight. For audio processing, on XP today, you're guaranteed anywhere between 30 milliseconds to 80 milliseconds of latency just out of the box for audio processing. And in most cases, that's just completely unacceptable. In Vista, we've optimized this down to 4 milliseconds round trip, getting into Vista all the way up to the user application and back out to the speakers. So targeting much more higher end, semi-professional, professional style applications for audio processing. We've also simplified routing, so that's the whole, I now have per application audio available, so I can turn off and on audio where I see fit, and I don't have audio playing over each other. And we've also invested heavily in this concept of glitch resilience. We have a feature called the Multimedia Class Scheduler, which a bunch of different people in the OS are leveraging. It's basically a way to control thread prioritization. So people that are working on disk I/O and UI rendering, et cetera, they're all leveraging this multimedia class scheduler in order to get more performance with their applications. So in Media Foundation, we've used this multimedia class scheduler to enable glitch resilience for Windows Media Audio, Windows Media Video, and MP3 playback. Those are the three. Again, if you are a developer and you have different codecs that you want to render, you can plug into Media Foundation and take advantage of this feature as you see fit. So now what I'm going to do is I want to show you that I'm not lying. So here is XP Machine playing some 720p content. Make sure we can hear this. You can turn it up a little bit, please. Okay, cruising along, everything looks good. I'm doing nothing on the machine. I have a little stress app here. And I'm going to start a thread priority 10 thread on this machine and start hammering a little bit. This is kind of the equivalent of having some heavy disk activity. So maybe I start downloading some music or some files from work.
It's changing and moving, and it's surrounding you, and it feels good.
That's awesome. That's a great user experience. Right? So OS is still running great, but now Windows Media Player is just completely choking because it doesn't have enough thread priority to process both the audio and video. So go ahead and hit stop. And God forbid I do something like this, I'll go to like a level 17, and everything's just going to start freezing up. Now that the OS and Windows Media Player are pretty much, well, I still have some mouse control here. Yeah, there it goes. So not a very good user experience, especially if you're going to play back premium content. Let's get out of here. So now I'm over to my Vista machine. Here you can see the per app audio that I was talking about. So I have my main volume, and then I also have my applications. I'm going to go ahead and start up Windows Media Player. And now you see that there's an additional, we'll have the little, the Windows Media Player logo. So now we have multiple apps running. In fact, I'll go and open up some games as well so you can see this. Games, and we'll play Hearts. Okay, so now you see that Hearts has its own audio mapping. So very simple, but solving a lot of problems. The other thing that we've done, I'm kind of diverging, but I want to make sure I didn't forget this. From an audio routing perspective, we're also kind of showing where all the stuff is located on the machine, so you don't have to bend down behind and see what's connected to where, so you know what jacks things are plugged in, if your microphone's plugged in, and doing this in a very visual way. So let's get back to the resilience demo. I'm going to fire up my little stress app. I have to tell Vista I want to run this as administrator now because by default Vista's doesn't necessarily too happy about running things that are going to have control over threads. Okay, and I'm going to start playing back my content that I had before. Make sure this is okay. I'll do the 10% before, just to show apples to apples. Start hammering this thing. Right? Audio looks great, video looks great. And there's no smoke behind this either. It's the exact same machine, same RAM, RAM, same processor, same video card.
You're stepping into liquid. You're stepping off of concrete ground and into an element that is always
stop.
changing and moving, and it's surrounding you, and it feels
I'm
good.
gonna jack this up to about 14 now and see what happens. Should be okay. You'll notice down here, like the menu bar or the progress bar, it starts to glitch a little bit. So, you know, some of the other things around the player start to get affected, but the video renderer still has the highest priority. Video runs at around 18, and audio runs at about 19.
Once you're a surfer, you're done.
Red priority
in.
now.
It's like a mob or something. You're not getting out.
So let's see if I do that now. I'll probably start glitching a little bit, but audio should be okay. There you go. So it starts to glitch.
It's like
audio
falling
starts
in
going.
love.
I can't move
You
the
don't know
mouse
what the
anymore.
feeling is
The
until you
PC's
felt it.
completely
This
stressed
is it.
out.
This is how good I feel. This
Except
is what
the
it's all
video
about.
still looks great. Well,
At the edge of everything
this is
you
an
know,
extreme scenario.
there is something you can't
Still can't even get the
imagine
mouse. There we go.
until you step.
So that's what the you know confidence factor on Vista is going to look like playing back audio and video content. Is that cool? Yeah, that rocks. So back to this. You know, at the end of the day, you know, our investments in the media platform, you know, we always like to highlight these high-level partner relationships, like going out with Urge and Verizon and you know, CBS Sports and the content providers that we have. But really, at the end of the day, the value from a business model perspective is really, you know, from the services side. So being able to provide these guys the services that they need in order to take these experiences to market. And it's also providing, you know, very, you know, rich UI to deliver these experiences to mobile devices, to the PC, et cetera. And really, Windows Media, you know, is the platform that you can build your applications around. So I encourage you, stand on the shoulders of what we've done codec-wise and DRM-wise. You know, leverage it. It's there. You know, it's on every PC. You know, it's licensable. We have great partners to help you out. Vista and Media Foundation, we're really committed to maintaining the highest bar of quality, both from a programming perspective and also playback. And I'm excited now all this stuff is starting to come together, right? We got Windows Media momentum, WPF's on the horizon. You know, it's all about great design, so being able to focus on great design, you know, to enable an amazing user experience. So there's really just a ton of opportunity out there depending on where you want to go, whether it's the wireless space, rich application on the PC, et cetera. So with that said, I'll open up for questions. If you want to send me mail directly, that's my job. This is what I do all the time. My email is eschmidt@microsoft.com. With that, I'm done. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your time at Mix, and I'll open up to questions if you have any. Thank you. No questions at all? Nothing about, oh, here you go.
So I was just in the little talk on the WPF-E, and they were talking about that they're accessing Windows Media a little bit to do their video.
Yes.
But there's no DRM in it.
Oh, that they said that they won't be porting over the DRM stack.
Yeah, that seemed like a big step backward.
Sure. I was not at that session, and this was something actually whenever I came down, I was talking to these guys. I can follow up,
No, that's cool.
yeah, with more information. Yeah.
Is that consistent?
It's not actually. It's not necessarily consistent to what our strategy is on getting this ported to other operating systems. I think it's whenever that port happens, so they're going to be porting WPF over, and they have their existing API. Wherever we have our existing API for Windows Media DRM, those two things need to merge.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So are you saying?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. What else?
This is a somewhat technical one, but obviously there's some very impressive changes you've demonstrated in terms of the new
audio and video capabilities in the new release of Windows. How much will that affect or impact the drivers, the existing pool of hardware drivers out there? Are they going to? Is it a completely new process that will be reauthoring, or is it going to be very consistent?
Yeah, so what I showed you has nothing to do with the driver models from a processing aspect. The audio panel that I showed you, that does impact drivers for folks that say have USB connectivity or FireWire connectivity to the PC.
Sound cards.
Yeah, sound cards and things like that. Yes, it does impact them, and we're actively working with them to make sure that they are ported over correctly. But the rendering aspects from a codec perspective and from a video card perspective, there are no changes there.
I mean, do you anticipate it being an easy port for a sound device, or is it a significant reinvestment?
The folks that we had a porting lab 2 weeks ago. It was for most folks, it was a fairly easy process. Yeah. Anything else? Thanks. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of the show. And if you gamble, win. So, see ya.